there are some interesting guest speakers coming up. And one of those guest speakers is, of course, Donna Waxman, who does dewdrop or refraction photography or water drop photography, call it what you will, but she uses water drops as a lens, and this is fantastic. So I'm looking forward to her little presentation. She also teaches at Mohawk College, so I'm sure she's going to give a great presentation for you. And I don't want you to miss it. She doesn't have a date yet, but we will have a date from her upcoming. The next one, of course, is Terry Gilman. Now, Terry Gilman is going to be here September the 24th, and her husband sailed around the world, and she has some really interesting stories from Madagascar. She went to villages that very few people ever get to see. But the interesting thing about her trip to Madagascar is she ran into some technical challenges, and she talks about how she MacGyvered, how she fixed those challenges, and really ended up with the best photographs that she feels she got from the whole trip. And here's one of those shots from Madagascar. Beautiful. I like those trees. They're really interesting. Then this one I'm really looking forward to. And we now have a date for forensic photography. And the forensic photography is going to be given by Rob Rigioli, who is an instructor at the Ontario Police College in forensic photography. So this is going to be a great presentation. And remember, whenever you attend these presentations, you can ask questions. If you ask questions by chatting, then I always look forward to your questions. But please, to ask questions, make sure if you're going to do it through a chat or through texting, put a Q and a colon and then your question. That way, I'll be able to go back to all the questions and make sure they get answered for you. So this is going to be a very, very exciting one. And so don't miss the forensic photography by Rob, who's an instructor at the Ontario Police College. So this is really, really important. Okay. So back to this shot. Anyway, I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. It's fantastic seeing you here. If you're on YouTube, let me know who you are. Send me a text, and so I can post it. I'm happy to have you here. I'd like to know where you're from. I think that's important, and what your interest might be in photography. Now, these chats, I know I said this earlier, quietly though, but now I'm going to say it out loud, that these chats are 1 hour long. I like to keep them to 1 hour, and I'm keeping the presentations short enough to fit within that hour and have a question period after. I think that'll work out really great for us. And also, it won't be tedious. I think that that's important too. If you want to see some of the missed chats that we've had, because we've had some great speakers on here, one of them is a photojournalist, and his chat is on my YouTube streams page. You can go have a look at it and listen to it. And the other one was, let's see, we had the photojournalist. Who was the other one? The other one was, I'm trying to think of it. Oh, it'll come to me in a minute.
We had the girl who took birds, etc. I can't remember her name. I had it written down, but I've lost it.
What did she take? Sorry.
Yeah, she took birds, nature.
Yeah. Okay. That would be Anka Gaston.
Anka, that's it. Yeah.
Anka Gaston, and nature photographer. Now, that was a really interesting presentation because what I found with that presentation was that she not only staked out these birds, but she also put a camera inside the birdhouse that she built for the birds. And so you can see them nesting, you can see them, they're laying their eggs, and then how they protect their eggs and all that stuff, and how they feed the chicks. So that was very interesting. Now, I've asked Anka to come back and to just give us a short breakdown of how she installed the camera, what difficulties there were in installing the camera into the bird's nest. And she used some of these nature cameras that are sensor activated, and so that's how she got a lot of these shots, not to mention shots from outside. Okay, let's see here. All right, I'm not getting too many responses from YouTube. Let me know who you are. I'd love to hear from you. Just go to the chat and type in where you're from, who you are. I would love that. Super Zardo, if I don't know where you're from or who you are, but welcome. All right, so let's press on, because one of the things that I like to do in each one of these chats is give you a bite-sized lesson. Now, I appreciate the fact that many of the people that come here have been my students at Mohawk College or even at Conestoga College, but these lessons will act as perhaps refreshers for you, because they're going to be very basic, most of them, and each time I give a lesson, it's going to be broken down to a specific topic. Now, last time it was shutter speed. This time it's aperture. That's how much I break it down. So I appreciate the fact that you guys might be thinking, well, just aperture alone? Yeah, just aperture alone and just shutter speed alone and just ISO alone. ISO is going to be the one next week. And then the following week, I'm going to bring aperture, shutter speed, ISO together to show you how they work and to show you how to use them on your camera in the manual setting. So stay tuned for that. But tonight it's going to be mostly about aperture. And again, if you have any questions or you have any comments, please let me know. And Zardo, thank you very much, and welcome Switzerland to Canada. This is fantastic. I have been in my life, when I was in my 20s, I drove through Switzerland. What beautiful country. But I have to tell you, one thing about being in Switzerland that I shouldn't say troubled me, but it was unusual for me, because here we don't have any mountains where I'm living, and consequently when I was driving through mountains, I got a little bit claustrophobic, because all I could see was mountains around me. I couldn't see the sky unless I looked straight up. So that was unusual. That was fun. This back selection wheel selects shutter speed. Okay, that's this one. This is the shutter speed. This is the aperture. This one's the aperture. On some cameras, you only have one selection wheel. For example, on this camera, there is only one selection wheel, so you select the shutter speed with this selection wheel at the back, and if you want to change the aperture, you have to press down this button and at the same time make the selection. That will select the aperture. There's a little aperture symbol right next to this plus and minus button saying, and that indicates that this is the aperture button. Hold that button down and select your aperture with that rear wheel. Now, let me just go back. Traditional settings are what we're going to be using. Traditional settings on the camera don't include the ones in between. Traditional settings are your original apertures. Now, there are two settings usually in between on all the cameras. This is for finer tuning. You can fine-tune your exposure by using those in-between apertures. We are going to ignore them. We are only going with traditional apertures because they make sense, and this is how you learn the best, is by using the traditional apertures. So that's important. Okay, let's get on with it. So here are your traditional apertures. Now, I don't have them all on here naturally because there'd be too many, and I just want to show you the basic ones. So here I have F, again, preceded by F, which stands for focal. So f2.8, f4, f5.6, f8, and f11, f16, f22, f32. These are your traditional apertures. And on your camera, when you're changing your aperture, there might be two in between them. That setting to give you those two in-between apertures for fine-tuning can be turned off if you want to learn to begin with. But you can leave them on knowing that you have to go 3 clicks to get to these apertures. Now, one of the interesting things I tell my students is that it's hard to remember all these apertures. Remember, the shutter speeds that we talked about last week, the traditional shutter speeds, if you change shutter speed, you changed exposure by half or doubling. So you either half the exposure or double the exposure time-wise. Aperture controls amount, how much light you let in. So whereas the shutter was like a door opening for a period and then closing, the aperture is like a tap. It opens and closes down. Now, you can't use the aperture as a shutter. It won't totally close. So just keep that in mind. This is strictly about amount. Now, one of the things that I do tell my students is if you can't remember all these aperture numbers, because while the shutter numbers made sense mathematically, halving and doubling, these don't seem to make sense if you go from one to another and half and double. But you do. All of these are halving and doubling of exposure by using amount. I always say, remember f8 and remember f11. If you remember those two, you can pretty well figure out the rest of them. How? If you look at f8 and skip f11, it's f16. So f8, f16. And if you skip the next one, it's f32. So if we start with f11, the next one after 16 is 22. So you can see the relationship here of how the numbers work. So if you go the other way, f11, f5.6, and then f2.8. And if you take f8, the next one's 5.6, but f8, f4, and the next one would be f2. So if you just remember f8 and f11, you can always remember the other, and you can figure out the other apertures. Okay, good. Now, the largest opening is f2.8. The smallest opening would be f22, and they vary in between those. So, largest aperture is the smallest number. The smallest aperture is the largest number. Now, there's a mathematical reason for this, and as I've said before, I don't really go into the math with you guys. I don't care about the engineering behind the camera. I care about how to use what has been engineered for us. That's my main thing for using shutter speeds, using the camera, using everything on the camera. How it's engineered, I'm not worried about. I'm just worried about using what was engineered for us in an appropriate way. I always equate this to using a car. You might drive somewhere in your car. You don't have to know the workings of an internal combustion engine in order to be able to use your car. You just have to know the rules of the road and how to drive it. Same thing with a camera. I don't really need to know all the physics, everything that's involved in the engineering. I just need to know how to use it properly and get great images. Okay, so moving on. And let me just enlarge that a little bit for myself. Now, if you'll notice, f2.8 is the last aperture here, the largest aperture. And if you look at your camera lens, there's a ratio engraved on your camera lens or printed on your camera lens, usually on the front of the lens, sometimes around the side. I'm not sure. I can show you on my camera and after we're finished this very quickly. But that ratio is known as the maximum effective aperture of that lens. You can't open it up any more than that. So if your ratio is 1:2.8, that's the biggest aperture you can get with your camera. Now, let's see. What have I got here? All right, there's your ratio. Okay. So not only does your aperture control how much light comes in, therefore controlling exposure, it also controls something called depth of field, or sometimes it's shortened to DOF. And depth of field is something that I'm going to show you some samples of, but I'm going to cover it later in more detail as to how the aperture affects depth of field. But not tonight. Tonight is strictly about amount of light and aperture. So naturally, if you go to the smaller number, you let more light in. If you go to the larger number, you let less light in. Therefore, that's how you affect exposure. You get less exposure if you go towards the larger number. You get more exposure if you go towards the smaller number. Now, if you go from f16 to f11, that's double the exposure. If you go from f11 to f8, that's double the exposure again. Of course, if you go the other direction, you're halving the exposure. So just like shutter speed, and this is important to keep in mind, just like your traditional shutter speeds, it's halving and doubling. Aperture is also halving and doubling. Now the only thing that's nice about shutter speed is that mathematically you can see it's halving and doubling, but with aperture you can't see that in the numbers. You can't see that in the numbers. And that will be explained a little bit later on, but just trust me, this is the way it works, and those two can work together, and you'll see that next week. So, having said that, I'm going to move on to some examples of how aperture affects depth of field. And what depth of field is how much is in and out of focus. You'll learn more about this when I actually break down depth of field for you, but I'm going to give you my very simple definition of depth of field. It is when you focus on an object, the distance behind that focus point and in front of that focus point, that's your depth of field. How much is in and out of focus. And that depth of field can be varied. More can be in focus and less can be in focus. That is depth of field. And what controls that is your aperture. Now, these were all taken by students. All of the photographs that I show you were taken by my students at one of the colleges. Here we are focused on this tube of paint. This is maximum depth of field. Everything is in focus from front to back. This is minimum depth of field. As you can see, the front tube and the back tube are out of focus. Only the middle tube, the blue tube, is actually sharp. Now let me go back. That's max. That's minimum. Let me show you another example. This is maximum depth of field. They're focusing on the king. Minimum depth of field. So you can see how now, the neat thing about depth of field is you can force a viewer to look at what you want them to look at by either using a shallow depth of field or a greater depth of field. Depends on how you want to do it. So this is the creative aspect. Shutter speed has control over exposure, but yeah, it also has a creative aspect. Like you saw in the last lesson, it can blur motion or it can freeze motion, or you can pan action with it. With aperture, you can either have a great depth of field or shallow depth of field, depending on what your artistic needs are. So this is the creative aspect of aperture. And here's a side-by-side view of minimum depth of field and maximum depth of field. So you can see, using minimum depth of field, your eyes are concentrated on the profile of this statue, whereas with maximum depth of field, the branches are in focus behind the face, and consequently they're distracting. Okay. I'm going to get to your, Super Zardo, I'm going to get to your question when we finish up here. Okay, thank you very much for that question. And finally, we're going to go to another example. This is maximum depth of field. Here, we're focusing on the middle ball. We're focusing on the middle ball. Now, the next one will be minimum depth of field. See the difference? Maximum, minimum. You can see how the background has blurred out, and the front and rear ball here are out of focus. Only the middle ball is in focus. Now I'm going to point out something that a lot of people kind of forget about depth of field. When you focus on an object, everything at that distance is in focus. If you notice down here on the ground, it's in focus right across here and across here. So everything at that distance is in focus. Only things closer than that or further than that are out of focus. This also applies to up and down. So depth of field is really a wall that you're changing. If your subject is in the middle, that's a wall that you're changing back and forth. And it goes up and it goes this way if you're focusing on that subject and your camera is over here somewhere. Here's another depth of field shot. Minimum depth of field, focusing on the green pencil. And maximum. Let's go back again. Minimum, maximum. Minimum depth of field, maximum depth of field. Okay, so much for aperture. Now I'm going to have a look at Super Zardo asked me a question here, and I'm just going to go to that. Okay, let's start off with this one. Okay, so your question is, well, a neutral density filter, whether it's put on the front or is an internal filter within the lens, does not in itself affect depth of field. But if you have to change your aperture to compensate for the neutral density, depends on to which degree your neutral density is dialed in, then yes, that will change depth of field only because it forces you to change the aperture. Now you can avoid that obviously by either changing the ISO or changing the shutter speed and leaving the aperture alone so you get that consistent depth of field. Does that explain your question? Does that answer your question? Good. Thank you very much. I always appreciate a good question. And yeah, we did cover in one of the chats, we did cover neutral density filters, both variable and stationary neutral density filters that aren't variable. And we were talking about how the variable density filters, because they're really two polarizing filters, how they go darker and darker and darker, whereas the other filters, you have to pick a filter that's of different density each time. And there are advantages one over the other. No, it isn't a typical neutral density filter. But what I will say is that I'm going to have a look at that for you, and I'll make sure that next week on Wednesday night I'll have an answer for you as to the specifics of that neutral density filter that you're talking about and how it may affect depth of field. So the neutral density filter has a gradient to the outside. Does it get lighter or darker on the outside? Whenever you're buying filters, and this is just a matter of, I think that it's important to realize that if you're buying filters, you should have your camera with you when you buy your filters, because a lot of the neutral density filters don't work properly with some lenses. And nor do the polarizing filters work properly with some lenses. And this happens sometimes with mirror cameras, or mirrorless cameras, I should say. And what happens is that they have some artifacts at the edge that they create. So it's a good idea to take your camera with you, put the filter on, and make sure that filter is suitable for that particular lens that you have. Okay, so it gets darker. Thank you very much. Righty. There we go. Okay, now, David, looks like you're the lone wolf on YouTube.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
That's interesting. So that's really our lesson for tonight, and I don't know who else is here on YouTube, but I'd like to welcome everybody. We do this chat every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here in Canada. So I'd like to welcome you from wherever you are or whoever you are. And it's always nice to know who's here. And just drop me a little chat telling me what country you're from, if you're from Canada, and maybe you're interested in photography. That would be super. David, do you have any images that you'd like to show? I know that David does some ultraviolet photography, and there's some amazing things that he's shown here before. Do you have any more pictures in your UV photography, David?
Yeah, I did try something, but it doesn't seem to have worked. Documents. Camera. No. I went on YouTube and tried this using Bridge, but it doesn't seem to have worked. Try again.
Hi, Steve. Nice to see you here. Steve, the guitar man.
You don't set the camera. No, I'm gonna get it right one day.
Do you remember all you have
Uh,
to do is um,
yeah, what it was. This YouTube said you can download in a collection on Bridge. Then you click on the first one, and then it comes up on Zoom, and then you just do the your forward button or reverse button, and they go through. But doesn't seem to have worked. Anyway, I will. Uh,
so while you're kind of
get
working
one.
that out, I'm going to ask Super Zardo, um, how long have you been into photography?
Flowers.
Okay, thank you. Can I just call you either just Super or Zardo if you have any preferences? You know, it's really fantastic having people that are not from Canada here. I can see you're trying to get something going here, David.
Yeah, I will get it right one day.
So, like I said, all you have to do is go to the file and once you highlight the file, just tap your space bar. That'll open it up.
All right, I've got a couple now. Share screen. Can you see that one?
Well, I can see it now. Let me just get you going over here, and there you go.
Can you get the whole thing in?
Uh, you're going to have to
It's
make it
pretty.
a little smaller, I think. Well, maybe
All
I
right.
can. Hang on.
Well, I think I've done it.
Okay, good.
Can you see that one?
I
Yeah,
can.
it's the whole.
That's very good. Okay, so that's just natural light, right?
Yes, yeah. This was taken at Gage Park in Hamilton. They they've got a big conservatory there, and they do all these amazing flowers, tropical flowers, etc. It's and they do different themes as well each year. But this was in their main conservatory. Uh,
Mhm.
another one. Oh, this one was.
This is UV, right?
No, this one was taken in Portugal. Actually, it
Oh,
was
okay.
just on the high street. It was a building which was just painted blue, and it was just amazing color. Just the contrast between the building and the actual flower itself. So I thought, wow, it just stood out so much on that. It was quite amazing. Um, so there's that one. Get rid of that.
While you're bringing the next one up, I just want to let everybody know that if you join us on Zoom, then I'd love to be able to see your work. If somebody has some work that they like to show, I can do that on Zoom. I just can't do that on YouTube.
Yeah, this was again another one. I'm not quite sure where I took this one, to be quite honest. But, got some more.
Very nice.
Oh, I think you've seen that one. Um,
Do you have any UV shots that we haven't seen?
no, I don't think so. I'll just show you this one. This one is.
Okay.
Can you see? Oh, oh, I didn't stop the other one. Um, this one we got. There's on the way out of Ancaster towards Brantford. There's a site which was. He was a builder or something. I'm not quite sure. Big contractor, but he's trying to sell the property. But he just demolished everything and then planted literally thousands of these sunflowers. And
Uh-huh.
it was just amazing. And so I went there, and of course, the old bees are having a great time there. And that's where I got the flowers for the UV ones, which I will show you now. Get rid of that. Okay, let's. Oh, I lost you. Um, you still there?
Yes. Yeah. I'm waiting for the shot.
Yeah, I seem to have lost you. It's not my. Oh, no, that's not it. Computers are not my forte, unfortunately. Uh,
Well, as long as cameras are, we're okay.
yes, yeah, yeah. Where the hell did that go? Infrared preview. No, zoom. Oh, right,
So
got it. Fine.
while you're kind of working at that, I am going to say that um, I was looking at medium format cameras. There's an outfit that's starting to make. Oh, I see you got it up. Let's
Yeah.
have a quick look at that.
So, yeah, that's one of them. That was
Yeah.
sort of.
So that's with ultraviolet light.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
The flowers, yeah. You again, you can change it. When you see the others, you can use just go into. I did all this on Lightroom, and you just change all the colors, and you can. It's
Yeah.
quite amazing, different colors you can get.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Get rid of that one. Oh, and share. So that's another
Yeah.
one.
Well, it's amazing the colors that you can get by using ultraviolet light. And
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing more photographs taken by you using ultraviolet light.
yeah.
Have you used ultraviolet light at all on any rocks or anything like that?
I tried it. I got some. It's I can't remember. I don't know if you can see this one.
Yeah.
It's a crystal, but it didn't make any difference. It didn't do anything. So I
Okay.
wasn't.
No,
I've got to try
yeah. There's
some
specific
other
rocks
things.
that will fluoresce under
That do
ultraviolet
it.
light.
Yeah, And I want
Anyway,
to
thank
try
you.
some. I
Yeah,
want to go and buy some
yeah. Go
different
ahead.
flowers and try
Yeah.
to see what colours I can get on those.
Okay.
But,
Well, thank you very much, David, for showing us those, and I
yeah.
really appreciate it. Um, what I was talking about is that there's an outfit that's starting to make medium format cameras that are reasonably priced. And when I say reasonably priced, I think with all the accessories and everything else, probably around $1,300. That includes the lens. And
Hmm.
these are 4x5 and 5x7
Wow.
format film cameras. They have a
Yeah.
graph lock back so that you can, um, if you have any graph lock accessories of your own or film holders, you can use those. But yeah, so that's something interesting. Talk about retro, um, and those films are still being made. So yeah, you can certainly use those. Let's see, how's our time? I think we're getting on a little bit, and yeah, just about time to quit. I really hope to turn this chat into something that's going to be pretty exciting. I look forward to people like Super Zardo contributing and asking questions. And if I don't have the questions, I'll get the answers to you. And then in the next chat, I'll make sure that I have that answer. I'm going to have a look at that because I've never seen the type of instrument that you're talking about. Um, but if you go to my Facebook page, Jorj Takis, and um, I'll be posting things there as well. So yeah, that's where you'll find some of the answers. Anyway, I'm new to all this, and I do one online class for college, but not with this kind of sophistication. But I'm going to bring this sophistication to my online class because I think that it's pretty cool, and I think it makes it a little bit more interesting, visually, to have all these different cameras and things that we can bring up. Um, and including the tickers that run through.
One thing, George, macro photography. Do Are you intending to do anything on that in the future?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned it. One of the other things that I really look for is if anybody has any kind of ideas for future subjects,
Hmm.
please let me know because I'm always looking for anything, any subject line that we can come in. Also, if you have any anyone that you know who specializes in a certain field that you think might be able to get a 15-minute presentation. And if you can find out if they'd be interested in doing a 15-minute presentation, you can show them what we're kind of doing on YouTube. And by the way, that other presentation that I do have, because all these chats will be on YouTube. I do edit the front of them off a little bit, anything that's irrelevant, but um, one of them was Chris Atkins. Now, this guy, Chris Atkins, he's a world traveled photographer, and he has taken photographs from Siberia all the way to Jerusalem, and even does underwater photography. Right now they're in the Caribbean looking for a particular pirate's ship that was sunk,
Hmm.
and so he's going to be showing that, and hopefully I'll bring him back for a chat as well to tell me how that went. And you guys can join us, and you're all available. You can ask him question what kind of gear he uses, and he flies some drones as well. And somebody asked about the cost of the drone, and I think it was something like $25,000. Uh, Not a cheap
Hmm.
drone. And he says that he has an observer with binoculars to make sure that they have a sight of the drone when they send it out. They like to keep it available. Okay, so that brings our evening to a rest. Okay, Holga. Okay. Well, I'm not sure what the name of this. I'll see if I can find the link, and then I'll post the link on my Facebook page. And um, in YouTube, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed as well as liked this particular program. That's always a bonus. It's new, it's fresh, so you'll have to forgive us if there are some glitches here and there, or even if I make some glitches here and there. But we're going to do our best to make this as slick as possible and as informative as possible. I think that's important too. So not only will you see some work by others like David, and we have seen work by a few others that were just absolutely phenomenal too. So please do come back.
Yeah,
And
was it Anita a couple of weeks ago
who?
where she did the um, oh,
Jewelry?
pictures inside houses?
Oh, yeah, the picture. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. What was her name? She showed some fantastic photographs.
Yeah, she was really good. It'd be interesting to see some of her work again.
I asked her if she'd come back and show how she did some of that, and she said yes,
Hmm.
she would.
Yeah, that would
So
be
that's
good.
another one that another speaker that we can get back. So now, Guitar Man, where did you get that Holga camera? Where's that made? Okay. All right. Well, we'll wait for that answer. Now, there's about a 10-second lag between me talking and it actually appearing on YouTube. So there's always that kind of little bit of a lag. Here we go. Oh, Amazon. Amazon. It has everything. Fantastic. Thanks for that. Okay, I think we'll call this a night. And again, I welcome everybody to come here. It's fantastic to have you here, and I hope you'll come back and enjoy future chats. And like I said, there are some great guest speakers coming up. I'm really looking forward to the forensic photography one and the one on Madagascar. I think that would be another fantastic one. And I'm planning these far enough ahead so that you can look forward to them. And I think that there is a link where you can actually, uh, I'll put future chats up here in YouTube, but just go to my Facebook page. I put every one of these up a week ahead of time so that people can avail themselves of this chat. So again, I would like to thank everybody who attended. There's quite a little crowd on YouTube. I love that. And but if you can go to the Zoom version of this, then you can show your work, and I'd love to see your work. We only have time to show maybe 3 or 4 pieces from everybody, but whatever work that you can show, I would really like to see it. Okay, so you'd love to see the difference between f-stops and t-stops? I will do that. Thank you very much. Uh, and Super Zardo, appreciate you being here. And what time is it in Switzerland right now? It's 8 o'clock here.
It's about 6 hours difference, I think.
Yeah.
Eight. At 1 o'clock in the morning, or 2 a.m. Yeah.
2 a.m. Okay. Well, thank you for staying up. If you're like me, I'm probably up around 2 a.m. too. I'm a night owl. Again, everybody that attended here tonight, I appreciate it. I love having you here, and I hope to make this chat a success in the future. We just started a couple of months ago, and so far it's been going pretty good. And despite the fact that at the beginning there were a lot of little um, ticks and glitches, if you want to call them that, because I wasn't sure on how to operate this whole system to make it look really nice and smooth for you guys. And I hope the if there's any critiques, I will accept those too. Any critiques on either the visuals or the sound, the audio. I hope I've got the audio down to a point where it sounds pretty decent.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will bid you a good night, and I will ask you. Oh, wait a minute, I'm way off here. There we go. See, glitches, right? So I'm going to ask you to please give me a like and to also subscribe. I'm looking for subscriptions, obviously, in order to make this successful. Um, and uh, and of course, pass it on. If there are other people or photography clubs that you think might enjoy this, and it's a slightly different point of view, but please do come and enjoy yourselves and share by all means. So with that,
Okay.
David, I'm going to say good night. Superzardo,
Yeah. Good
I'm
night,
going to
George.
say good night. And Guitar Man, I'm going to say good night to you too.
Yeah. Thanks,
And to
George.
all those that are unknown here, good night.